Welcome everyone to episode 90 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed Al Houli, and we are back with a massive guest and a huge show. Of course, the man himself, Mr. Rick Lazar, joins me. Mr. Rick, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Everything is great, and I'm really happy to have Garry Jonas, the creator, founder, owner, and operator of ProBox, and also the promoter of a very, very well-known fighter that's got a lot of publicity since Saturday, Lamont Roach.
Mr. Garry Jonas, welcome to the show, buddy.
Great to be here. Thank you, Ahmad. Good to see you, Rick.
Good seeing you, Garry.
Garry, the fight that's taken the boxing world by storm, still talking about it today. Even all the big news that's been broken today, they're still talking about this fight. Up and down, the internet's gone into a frenzy. Lamont Roach versus Tank Davis, the controversial 9th round. What a fight, what an occasion. Your boy, Lamont Roach, you were there ringside. Take us through the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll start it off by saying that it was particularly difficult to have this fighter going into the lead up of the fight. I feel bad for fighters, who going in are the underdog by that much. The amount of ridicule this fighter took going into the fight. How many people everywhere were criticizing him like as if he wasn't even in the room, right? He doesn't belong. This is another dummy. It's just, you guys all heard it, so you guys all know. But, when you look at it as perspective of his promoter or someone looking after his career, it kind of hurts. You don't know how to look at your fighter and say, you're going into this, but you're going to get fucking ridiculed, right? People are going to be cruel. They're going to be mean. They're going to tear down your confidence, and you got to stare it all down. You got to tune it all out. Don't let it get to you, and then somehow manage to walk onto that stage in front of 20,000 people and have your wits about yourself and your confidence to perform at a level that's at least what you're capable of. So the most impressive thing about this kid's performance was he just weathered all that. He didn't let it bother him. And obviously he came out with his best performance, a performance of his career under what I consider to be some of the most difficult mental and emotional circumstances. So his mental fortitude was the most impressive thing I saw.
He fought to be honest with you, he fought and so within himself that you'd almost think that he was the one with all the big fights under his belt and not Tank. Tank completely was wholly lost in the 9th round. I mean, took a knee, jumped up, ran to the corner, did all things that were legally wrong in boxing or against the rules. I mean, and your guy showed complete throughout the whole 12 rounds and post fight. The moment was not too big for Lamont Roach.
A big advantage that people underestimated is that Lamont Roach grew up, he's 1 year apart with Travante. They grew up in the amateurs together. They know each other very, very well. But those styles, because you would know the Ohio, Philly, Maryland, Baltimore, DC, the DMV fighters all fight a very particular style. And they know each other very, very well. The Mexican sees Tank Davis for the first time. There's so much unfamiliarity with that style that it's a big advantage for Tank. Lamont knowing it so well and also applying the same tricks and the same things in return to Tank, I think gave Lamont a bigger advantage than most people thought. And it trimmed down the difference between how good Tank is versus Lamont. That familiarity was a big deal. Also, if anyone knows, Tank was always a little bit of known as a very emotional amateur and very talented, but always, throwing fits. And Lamont knows him from that. And Tank knows he knows him from that. So that brings them back to a place where Tank wasn't very mentally tough. And I think Lamont all looked across the ring and saw the 10-year-old that he used to fight, that he knew growing up with. And they saw each other that way. So there was a little bit of a story within the story, and psychologically, Lamont had a much bigger advantage than people thought about how comfortable he would be in there with Tank.
Actually, in the post-fight press conference, Barry Hunter came out and said exactly that. He said that we know each other very well, and tonight he worked against us. So absolutely, they absolutely know each other very, very well. And even one of the things that impressed me most about Roach is that he was so composed. No matter what Tank threw at him, his composure was second to none. Like he was so focused. It was crazy. And imagine being a fighter in front of 20,000 people, A-class celebrities, people you know from the hood, and people that you know very well. There's a lot of pressure on you. This kid went in there like he belonged there, and it was absolutely, like, honestly, very, very impressive. And even like if you look at the commentary online, a lot of what people are saying is that Roach, the extra weight apparently helped him, and the fact he could sit there in the pocket and go toe to toe with Tank and roll and come back with more really made him look even better than what we like. I'll be honest, I was the first one that thought this is a mismatch, because I hadn't seen that side of him.
I got something to get you.
People like yourself, Garry. Obviously, you've been looking after him. You guys saw something else.
Yeah, I think that some fighters have a different career arc. I mean, he fought for his first championship at a relatively young age against Jamal Herring, and I think that he's just been getting better. Some guys peak later. I think Lamont is a guy that was always a good amateur, and when with Golden Boy, he was solid, but he's just been getting better. And his style is one that takes a little longer to master, right? It's timing. It's about being very sharp. So I just think we're looking at a late bloomer. And, when he won that championship on PBC against Louis Garcia, he was coming in as the B-side on that, and he showed a lot of fortitude in winning that fight. And I think that, they say, it's one thing to become a champion, it's one thing to be one, and you get that much better when you are one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just watching him hit his stride as a fighter. So we weren't all that surprised. And he's a big kid. He's got big calves. He's got big legs. He took on muscle very well. So he made 35, but he's still a good size. He made 30, but he's still a good size 35. So it's not as big a surprise to everybody. He went to Plant City and was with Berlanga and was with Lubin and, Blast and Terrell and Naji, some of our really good young fighters. And there's a very good thing going on there. That's a great camp to be in. People are starting to appreciate the work that they get there. So I think he just had a great camp, a great environment. He's peaking, and it's not so much of a surprise. Even some of the people that I'm dealing with in the sport that really know the game very well, they don't think it's a fluke. They're looking at him going, it's going to be the same fight the next time. They're going to do 12 more rounds, and it's going to look a lot like it did this time, because there were just some very sound things that he did, and not to drag on, but one of them was no backing up. He's going to plant himself in front of him. He's not going to let Tank go downhill at him and get that momentum where he stutter steps forward and get a little more on his shots. Frank Martin backed up into that corner, and as soon as he did, he was dead. Lamont was never going to back up into a corner. So he kind of took away a lot of his power by planting himself there and stepping to him and taking away a lot of Tank's space that he needed for his power. So it was a good game plan. Styles make fights. His style is a problem for Tank, and I think the next fight, Lamont's going to go in. Yeah, Tank's going to be angry. Yeah, Tank's going to be focused. I expect to see a better Tank next time, but I also expect to see a better Lamont with the confidence that he's going to have.
Garry, I was at the fight in November of 2019 in Fresno when he fought Jamal Herring. when Lamont fought Jamal Herring. And I thought after watching him, because that's the first time I had watched him, I said, boy, does this guy have a low IQ to be at this level. And now, to me, he showed an unbelievable IQ the other night and against Hector Garcia.
Right.
So I think what you said was spot on, that he's maturing, he's getting better and better, and it's you could just see it. There's no question about it.
One thing that not many people know about is the relationship between ProBox and Lamont Roach. Even what people consider as senior journalists in the space were misconstruing facts on the internet, and and talking about things that they really have limited knowledge on. Can you please dive into your relationship with Roach and tell us a bit when he came to you, how you currently work with Roach and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on what Keith Idek did, but before we get into what Keith did,
no, you didn't pronounce Gary. It's Idek. That's his name, Keith Idek.
I get it.
Okay, well, we got that straight.
No, the exact relationship is the deals with his father and No Excuse Promotions. No Excuse Promotions is a promotional company that I use in Philadelphia and DC, especially in the DC, Maryland area. We've done a few fights there now, and we have another one coming up April 12th. And Lamont Roach, his father, and No Excuse Promotions is my local promoter. With that, we've now started to sign and have a relationship with his entire stable. Wow. So it's not just Lamont, who was on ProBox TV on June 28th and defended his belt there, but his younger brother, Jordan, Ben Johnson, who's a top amateur fighter, highly sought after, is with us. So there's a number of fighters in the stable. And yes, when the young man said to Keith in those interviews, he said, well, yeah, I'm with Garry Jonas. And he said a bunch of nice things that Keith omitted to report on. Keith kind of confused the fighter. And he said, no, I'm with Garry Jonas. It's a business arrangement, because that's what he understands from his father. It's promotional company to promotional company. And in fact, it's ProBox TV has an arrangement with No Excuse Promotions and their fighters for their television rights. So yes, Keith knows I made the fight. Keith knows I dealt with PBC to make the fight. Keith knows that I was up on the podium at the weigh-in. Keith knows all the representation. Keith was just...
And you announced. And you announced.
On the night.
Right. I mean, so for Keith to sit there and do something, play on words that way and try to confuse a fighter on the business side, that, I mean, Rick, I'm going to let you go off on what kind of journalism that is. And the reality is he works for the Saudis. And the Saudis have been trying very much to harm ProBox TV. Wow. Quote unquote. They've told their employees, quote unquote, we're going to destroy ProBox TV, boxing scene, and Garry Jonas. So Keith was working. He's working for his boss, the Saudis, who are trying to disparage, find fault, play games. It's tacky stuff, but they didn't even bother with this guy. Rick, he's a low-level dude. He's a shill. He's not professional. When he was with boxing scene, he worked for Showtime. Now they're with Ring, working for the Saudis. They are journalists for sale. That's what they are. And that is precisely what he did. Even he made this other comment that I didn't go and defend my fighter ringside. Guys, I stood up immediately when we all saw what we saw in the 9th round. And I looked to my right, because I sat in the corner with the team, and which is the far end to the commission. And Robert Diaz, who's the manager, sat down at the other end with Gilberto Mendoza from the WBA. So when I looked to him to see what was his reaction, he had already beelined for the commission. So much so that, Rick, I saw, and I know you love Robert too, but don't go easy. He made a beeline for the commission, and as I saw him disappear behind that side of the ring, he came flying out as fast as he went in. They kicked him out of there so fast and threatened to throw him out of the building. So IDEC suggesting This is how little he knows about boxing. When a fight goes down, when something goes wrong, but the fight ends on it, like when Chucky Flores was with Rigondeaux got knocked out after the bell in the first round, I was in the ring on HBO. I got in the ring and I solved the problem and I got it ruled a no contest, so on and so forth. But when the fight's continuing, there's nothing you can do. You have to wait to the end of the fight. And the commission will throw you out of the building if you insist on going back there arguing with them while the fight's going on. So for Keith Idec to say that we did nothing just shows how little he knows about the sport.
Wow. Interesting.
Well, I once said about Keith Idec, what he knows about professional boxing, you can write on a matchbox cover with a large yellow crayon. Yeah. So there you go.
Garry, before we move into ProBox, what's happening with...
No, I'd like to talk about Robert Diaz, actually.
Robert had a very good weekend, man.
Garry, Rick, let's stay optimistic here and objective. Garry, what's happening with this 9th round controversy? Are we going to see it overturned? What's the story?
You know, one thing about boxing is that that you can predict about boxing is how unpredictable it is. I don't know. Listen, I really don't know. We filed the appeal. It was a very well drafted appeal by Greg Smith. We did our show tonight. We litigated it. We slowed down. We did slow-mo. We freeze framed it on certain spots. We broke it all down in a very good way. We had Jack Reese, referee, on, who represented sort of the referee's perspective in the night. Breadman was there. Dan Raphael was there. And it's undeniable, right? The one conclusion that everyone came to was the guy took a knee. You can't call timeout in combat sports. You can't. You can't. It's a penalty. You want to disqualify me? It's a penalty to take a knee at any time, whether it was from a punch or not. It's a penalty. Now, people have been penalized when they're hurt. Floyd Mayweather broke his hand on somebody's head and took a knee because in pain. They took a point. That's just the way it is. And then he turned around and went to his corner. He looked like he surrendered. And Barry Hunter sent it on tape. It looked like you submitted. It looked like a submission. No shit. It was. He called timeout. Then he went to the corner, turned his back, which is the same thing. And then he stuck his head through the ropes to get to be treated. I mean, it's a trifecta of fouls or, the things that you could take a point. And what Jack Reese pointed out today, and he educated me a little bit, he says it's fully at the discretion of the referee. It's not a rule. It's the ref's discretion. So if you want to know why boxing has a problem, first of all, put governing the sport in the hands of the government. You want to do something wrong, give it to the government, right? So it's run by government personnel, right? Government agencies. Number one, 50 different ones of them, right? That's going to lead to absolute chaos. And then take a referee and say, now, there are no rules. It's all at your discretion. Well, that's ripe for absolute chaos. If poor Willis, right? Keith Willis, if he had, is it Kevin Willis?
Steve.
No, Steve.
Willis,
Steve.
Or Steve Willis. Once Jack Reese educated me that it's at his discretion, I mean, how do you make decisions like that at your discretion, bang, bang calls in the middle of a fight? It would have been easier for the poor guy to just know, hey, you took a knee. That's the rule. You take a point. Hey, you turned your back. You went to your corner. You take a point. The guy got up on the apron. At least you take a point, if not DQ. If that was just a rule, it would have been much easier for him. But lo and behold, Jack Reese explained to me that no, all of it's at the referee's discretion.
How's he going to call a point or stop the fight, Garry, there's 20,000 people in there. There's A-class celebrities. The world's watching. The pressure's on. I mean, he's gone to water.
Take the point. I agree with you. Don't DQ it. It's look at all that's on the line. Take a point. But then at the same time, if what you're saying is true, and I don't disagree with you, then it's incumbent upon the New York State Commission to then do the right thing after the fact. So we didn't ruin the event. Let it go on, but now take your jobs very seriously, or there are no rules in boxing. It was so, I don't even like protesting or appealing, to be honest with you. And if Roach lost every round, I don't think I would, because I don't even want to win on a DQ technicality if my fighter really lost a fight. But the reality was, he arguably should have won the fight on the cards. Most people had him winning on the cards. So now the fact that we can get justice by this kid, Gervonta, making 3 mistakes in a row, it should be done, number one. Number two, the New York Commission, it was so egregious. Everyone was so shocked ringside. No one knew what the hell was going on. No one's seen it before. That if that is not worthy of taking a point off for all that happened, and I don't think it's at anybody's discretion. There were 2 or 3 punches thrown, and he took a knee. That's no one's discretion. That's the fact. That's a point at least. If it is your discretion not to penalize him for surrendering.
This is why I disagree with Jack Reese. And I think he's one of the, well, he's just retired as a ref, but he's one of the best referees in the world. Here's why he's wrong. Because Steve Willis started counting as if it was a knockdown and only stopped when he got up and ran to the corner with his back. So he was so startled, he stopped the count, never picked it up again, never continued it or picked it up. That's why Jack is wrong. He ruled it a knockdown. That's why he started counting. Right there.
And yet, what everyone on the panel today said on our show was, and regardless, punches are thrown, you take a step back, you take a knee, that is a knockdown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Period.
And he called it a knockdown. That's why he started counting.
And then somehow he thought better of it, and he changed his mind, even though it's a steadfast rule, which is amazing. And now the New York Commission has to do something about it. If they don't do the right thing, then what does it say about the sport?
Garry, what's the story with the video review on site? Some are saying there is, some are saying there was a glitch, some are saying there isn't. You were there.
All of the above is true.
Wow. Okay.
There was video replay. They had a glitch in getting it immediately. It got to them by the end of the round, it got to them. They were able to review it between rounds, and they went, we're going with the ref's decision that there was no knockdown. So they got it. They just didn't get it. They're telling the truth. They didn't get it right away.
Okay.
They're not telling you that they got it in plenty of time to do something about it. And they decided to do nothing about it. Now, look, if it was Lamont Roach that did the same thing. Right? So
we had this discussion the other night.
And that's, again, so New York State Commission has to use their common sense. They know damn well all these things. It's like we're arguing something that there is no argument. It's bizarre. And that's why everyone's still talking about it. It's that bizarre. And look.
Garry, I don't believe the referee thought better of it and stopped the count because of that. He only stopped the count when Tank ran to his corner. That's when the count stopped. He was counting. If he was still standing there, he would have still been counting.
Right. So he has to resume the count.
And he never did. That's why.
Do it again. I'm gonna he choked.
I heard him say that.
He choked. It was.
He said, "I should have taken a point." He says, "I should have taken a point from you."
He choked. That's exactly what he did. He choked and buckled.
He choked, and now but you know what's funny? you ask yourself, why did we even have to appeal? Why?
Common sense on the commission's part should have applied.
Didn't they just want to get it right? Why is there an appeal process? Like, don't you? Oh, if you don't say anything, we won't say anything. It's the standard should be
exactly.
a mistake was made. We let the fight continue to play it on the safe side. Fight's over. We're correcting the mistake. Why does anyone have to appeal? Do you understand? If it puts the fighter in a very bad position because he's having to take on his promoter, at least his promoter for that night, and you're asking you're putting that fighter in a position to bite the hand that feeds. In this particular case, PBC was very gracious about it. They're like, hey, you do what you need to do. There was no influence from them not to, which I do appreciate it. I do appreciate that. And, we did what we had to do to protect the fighter's interests. Legacy means something. For this guy, for Lamont to be a 130 and 135-pound champion at the same time, and having gone down in history as beating one of the pound-for-pound guys like that, that's a massive achievement. And it's not...
It's a Hall of Fame moment. You want to know the truth? And I'm a Hall of Fame elector, so yes, definitely. No question about it.
The New York State Commission, and look, Tank, despite what a lot of people think, Tank is still a hell of a fighter.
Yeah.
And the reality is this may have woken him up, and the fear is maybe you woke the sleeping giant, so to speak, because he was talking about retirement. Now he's motivated. Now he wants it back. But if he does get a loss, so what? So what? I'm from ProBox TV. We don't care about losses. All right. Enough with protecting O's. And Canelo has losses. How's he doing? Right. Pacquiao had losses. How'd he do? So what? If he's 28-1, he's still going to fill arenas. In the end of the day, they got to do what's right.
Absolutely.
What's your prediction, Rick? Will they overturn it?
They have to do something. Whether they call it a DQ, whether they take the point away.
Yeah, okay.
It was.
Will they do something?
I think they will.
Ahmad, you?
I do.
No, I think nothing's going to change, mate. I think that we will see a rematch, but they'll come up with some sort of.
I'm gonna say something to you guys right now, that the fact that he started counting and got to 2, and once they ran back to the corner and he stopped, he was startled, was grounds to take a point away automatically, even after the fact. Now, you can't change scoring based on judge's decision. You can change the fight on a protest based on a referee's incompetence, whatever what you want to call it. But he clearly started the count. That's a knockdown.
The only thing going for Roach, in my opinion, is the public opinion and pressure. The fact that this saga is still being talked about, right, this far after the fight, and it's going to continue because online this morning, Gilberto Mendoza came out and refuted comments made by a publication around the outcome of the knockdown. And he said, no, we have to pursue the rematch. So for as long as there's no outcome or decision, the internet's going to keep talking about it. Because what it's done is there's a group of people that hate Tank and they watch him lose. And there's a group of people that will follow anyone that is against PBC, against Tank, against the whole crew. And it's created this war of words online, and it just has not backed down, non-stop. You jump on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, non-stop. Tank should knock down, draw, Mendoza, Ring Magazine, wrong author, this author shouldn't have said that fanboy. It's on for young and old. So that public opinion and that PR pressure could potentially push the New York State Athletic Commission to come out with a outcome sooner than later. But other than that, the way these bureaucrats work, they don't care. They really don't. They'll find some sort of excuse to throw in.
I think they absolutely have to take a point away for the knockdown because he started the count. Not because of the fact was it a knockdown or wasn't a knockdown. Not anything like that. Just the fact that he started the count, and then when he ran to the corner, he abandoned the count. I think they have to take a point away.
Look, when you turn your back and you walk back to your corner and you stick your head out the ring and your coach washes your face, it's a surrender. It's a submission.
Absolutely.
That is the rule. That is the classic definition of the rule. The fact that what they're saying is, yeah, but he didn't really intend to quit. No, Tank in his own crazy brain of his figured he's allowed to do that. I don't know how he's gone this far in boxing thinking he's allowed to do that. So now how do you do it? Do you apply the rule that even though he didn't intend to quit, he submitted? He took a knee, he turned his back, he walked away, he put his hands on the ropes, he stuck his head through one side, he stuck his head through the other, and he had his coach do this. That adds to a submission. That's what it is.
And once the trainer laid hands on him with the towel, fight was over with a DQ.
Well, as a matter of fact, no. I think the trainer was allowed to put his hands on him. You know why? Fight was over.
No.
He submitted.
Okay. From that standpoint,
he put the knee. That was a point. He turned his back and walked back to his corner, put his hands on the rope, and stuck his head through. He submitted. He quit. No mas. Fight's over. Trainer's allowed to wipe his head if the fight's over.
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
So hold on. The fight's only over if that was the intent of the fighter to quit. But if the fighter didn't intend to quit, so that was what Jack Reese was saying is, well, yes, that's the rule, but discretion, because he wasn't trying to quit. Again, somebody needs to fix this, but in theory, there were 3 infractions that you could take a point. If you don't want to disqualify and you don't want to interpret it as quitting, so you affected the fight, there are 3 points on that thing, short of a DQ or ruling it a submission. The knee, the turning your back and going to your corner, and then your cornerman getting up on the apron. That's 3 points.
There goes the fight.
Gary.
There goes the fight. Roach has won. He's won the fight.
Absolutely. And some will argue that you can't do that because that they may rule it a no contest. Because if Tank thought he was given a 2-point round, then he might have come out the last 3 rounds, and tried to score a knockout. So therefore, it's unfair to him to change the scoring now or to take a point after the fact, because the outcome of the fight might have changed. The course of the fight might have been different. So in theory, they could come with a no contest.
You know what's crazy?
No contest does nothing for anybody. So
I don't agree with the no contest because it's not whether he was a fight different or not. It's like who shot Jack. Jack's dead. Who shot him is completely irrelevant. That the fact the guy's dead. It was a point. Whether how he fought, that's his business. So I don't buy that. That's a lame excuse by anybody.
Keep going. Lots more to talk about. ProBox TV, the founder, Garry Jonas, has been working on this for many years. Garry, you bring a different taste to the sport with your background in the world of the digital marketing, internet. You've had a ton of success there in the rehab world and so on and so on. You built an absolute fortress out there in Plant City. Fighters come there, they got somewhere to sleep, somewhere to train, somewhere to eat, production trucks. Haven't seen it before yet in boxing. You go into the plant, into the ProBox TV arena, you got 50-50 fights, entertainment. When it doesn't happen, when those 50-50 fights don't happen, you see Garry stands up and creates a bit of a fuss. First-hand experience. You brought this one.
You were there for the Roldan fight. You were there for Roldan and Jukenbaev when I went.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was there. Yeah. So you brought this sort of style to boxing that's been missing for many, many years, where you have no problem people with a loss fighting another person with a loss for high stakes, like to put it in simplest terms. And people are getting paid better than what they would get paid elsewhere at the level that they're fighting and the exposure that they're getting. We're getting 40 plus talk shows a month on ProBox TV. We're getting the fights every second week, the archives. Why is Garry Jonas doing all this?
Well, it's a great question. I would say what started it off was that I saw a sport and a business that was broken. You know, my background was baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and when I finally got introduced to boxing, I just couldn't understand the concept of the matchups and how managers and promoters owned fighters, right? They weren't part of a league. The fighters, you kind of grabbed your fighters and you carried around your fighters, and your financial well-being was attached to that fighter. And, you know, it's an amazing sleight of hand. The fans should understand this. Once everyone involved is not part of a league, but they're attached financially to the success of the fighter. And now it's at their discretion with managers and promoters to make fights randomly. There's no, well, you're in second place and he's in third place, you're going to have to fight him. No. They choose whoever they want to fight. Make whatever fight you want. You're fucking retarded.
Yeah.
And when you make whatever fight you want, because there is no construct, and you got a bunch of promoters and a bunch of managers and some networks and sanctioning bodies, it's ripe with self-interest. So it hurts the sport. I mean, you have to understand, I think, Ahmad, you know this about me, and Rick, so do you. I go there and I don't sit ringside. I don't go into the ring. I sit up in my booth. I watch the television broadcast. That's all I care. Folks at home, we're not a promoter. We have a promotional license so that I don't have to give my events to other promoters to do, so I can control it. But we want to replace Showtime and HBO. That's our long-term goal. We're a boxing channel, and I'll work with promoters. I work with plenty of them. If I was a promoter, why do I have other promoters, fighters coming on my show? Some I do promote. I do sign to a promotional agreement so that we can retain the rights to air them on ProBox TV. Showtime had contracts. HBO had contracts. We are a boxing channel, right? First and foremost, that's what we are. And so I want to put on the best fights. And so suddenly my perspective is totally different. I'm just thinking about the fans when I'm sitting up there. I want to make a fight that I think is going to make the best fight. And it's funny, when I call the coaches, the managers, and the other promoters, and I say, I want to put this guy versus this guy, they all shit a brick. They get visibly uncomfortable. They start twitching. They don't want to put their guy in. They be like, well, he's a little tough. I'd like this guy. I go, why? That's good. The guy's clearly better than that guy. That's not going to be entertaining for the fans. Yeah, but financially, you know, if I lose, I got money invested in him. That's, people don't realize that's the problem with the sport. And look at Dana White, UFC. He owns the league. Everyone in the octagon is his. He doesn't care. He has nothing vested in one fighter winning or one fighter losing. Lo and behold, better competitive fights, and suddenly he's very popular with the fans, his product. And ours isn't, because they know the difference. We don't worry about the action levels. Evenly matched action fights, you got to worry about the action levels. They don't care. They just throw anybody in there. These guys are not worried about the fans. They never have been.
Just to be clear, Garry, that's boxing, not pro box. The boxing ecosystem. Yeah.
Well, this is what we're doing differently. And at the no-name boxing level, and I apologize to my fighters who think I just criticized them. At the no-name boxing level, we've done very, very well, because the fans are starting to realize, I don't know who these guys are, but I can tell that these fights are evenly matched and they've been chosen for action. And the product.
Yeah, people forgot, people that, you know, we make fights in the boxing for ourselves, not for the fans. And that's a problem.
Mhm.
That's been a problem. And I mean, we forgot that it's an entertainment business. We're there to entertain people. People that are paying. Remember something. I don't call boxing fans fans. I call them boxing enthusiasts because you're paying. Most of the stuff's on pay-per-view or it's on a subscription app, something. And they deserve a boxing enthusiast rather than a boxing fan because they got to pay. You don't pay the NBA. You don't pay for NFL football. You just watch for free. And we forgot that this is an entertainment business and we were making fights for ourselves, and it caught up with the business.
As soon as you were to tell all the managers and promoters that all the fighters are pooled and no matter who wins and who loses, we're going to share all the commissions off of all these fights, then suddenly you'd see amazing fights.
Wow.
Right.
So how do you bring it all together, Gary?
Oh, I don't know if we have enough time for that. There's concepts that are out there to be able to create a league that fits boxing, right? Every sport is different. You have to come up with a concept, and I've written a few of them. And you know, one of these days I'll make the move to create a league concept where there's a season and it ends with a champion. It culminates with a champion that people know exactly when it's going to be on and it's consistent. The randomness of our sport is a big problem. It needs a schedule, right? And it needs a reason why people are fighting people, not just pick them out of a hat. Let's make a fight. Hey guys, let's make a fight. That doesn't work compared to the other pro sports. The other pro sports have structure and construct. People compete against each other for a reason. And you follow that like a male soap opera. Throughout the season, you watch what place are the Celtics in versus the Knicks and who's going to end up playing who. That creates fan engagement. That creates storylines, talking lines. The infinite wisdom of those who created sanctioning bodies 100 years ago that now worked with random promoters, who worked with random managers, with random fighters, and nobody decided to do anything better with that concept. Look, fighting is more interesting than anything else. It's colossal underachievement by the forefathers of boxing, because it's a broken construct in the first place. And had they modeled themselves after the other leagues, the sport would be tremendously popular. I joke that if I was going to do a commercial for ProBox TV, it would go like this: Super Bowl, the World Cup, and NHL Finals. 20,000, 100,000 people in the stadium going absolutely wild, right? Suddenly a fight breaks out in the stands. Everybody turns around.
100%.
Really, that most incredible event is suddenly not that impressive because a fight broke out. And the number one thing a fan can ever watch, a human being, is people fight. It's by far the most exciting. Now, Rick, if the two guys just started going like this and no one threw a punch, they'd go, and they'd turn back around. But if it
You're 100% right, Gary.
If haymakers flew, they wouldn't care about the World Cup for a minute. They'd watch the fight. So now we go to the hockey game, and they're up and they're cheering, and it's loud and it's wonderful. The pucks are flying 100 miles an hour, and the next thing you know, they drop their gloves. I'm from Canada, folks. I'm from Montreal, as a matter of fact. I've done this many times. You drop your gloves, you get a hold of the guy's shirt, and you boom, boom, and you start wailing on each other, right? Now, the fans just jump up in the air. They get out of their seats. It's the greatest moment of a hockey game when two guys grab each other by the shirt and start pounding. So the point that we're making is innately, if you can make combat sports entertaining, right, and make sure that it's evenly matched and there's a lot of action, it's the most entertaining thing, back to the gladiator days in Rome, that anyone could ever watch. So, Rick, my point is, you have to screw it up real bad. Where's the quality control? If you're a steakhouse and every other steak is good and every other steak is bad, you're out of business. But boxing, in its infinite wisdom, is run like this for a very, very long time. We can start parlaying over to Turkey, because this is why I don't give a shit what this guy's doing. He's wasting everybody's time. It's good for the fans, good for the fighters, good for the managers, good for the promoters. Everybody take his money. Take it, my blessing. Fans enjoy it. I'm not knocking it. He will not be here forever because sooner or later the Saudi government's going to say, why are we wasting all this money on sports? Like, why are we funding sports suddenly? He has no path to profitability. He has path to, indulging himself with money that's, you go to an auction, Rick, and bid on a car and your competitors show up with a printing press of counterfeit money. You're never going to win another auction. This guy's got money to just burn as if it was not real money. So let him run his course. We'll go to Times Square. We'll go to fucking Alcatraz. We'll go to all these other places. But have I ever, in my history, seen a guy spend money in business with no expectation of profitability and burn massive amounts? We're watching something in the history of man we've never seen before. I've never, and I don't know that there's another business case where a lunatic shows up and just says, I have unlimited money to spend recklessly on something. And he's not doing anything to improve the sport. He doesn't have a fucking clue. He's got childish, impulsive ideas. And everybody around him goes, yeah, let's do that. Okay, boss, you're going to pay us a ton of fucking money. We're all going to tell you and do whatever. I'm sorry, guys. I'm dominating the fucking conversation. Somebody say something.
No, you're good. But Steve, listen, Ahmad's got a question he asks every week to somebody that handles fighters. Okay, he asks Spencer Brown. He asks everybody.
Do you have any
Garry?
Do you have any up and coming talent, Mr. Garry Jonas, that you can share with us?
Hey, Ahmad, don't ask Garry about their fighters' sex lives, please.
Any up and coming talent? I get it. Right. But I get it.
It's a running joke that Rick loves. But anyway, let's get back to Turkey. Turkey Al-Sheikh, this morning, massive announcements. The press, traditional press, whatever you want, is talking about it. Dana White, Nick Khan, who was the other one? One more. I just can't remember now. Basically, UFC, WWE, Ari Emanuel. The TKO group is going to be forming a boxing league at the expense of the Saudi prince or whatever he is, whatever his hierarchy is. Now, last week on this same show, me and Rick went into this conversation, and we dived in about Mark Shapiro's comments in the earnings call when they first announced it. Obviously, this has been a conversation ongoing. We text up and down about it. Same with you, Garry. Same with Rick all the time. Rick doesn't sleep, so he's always on my time zone. He said something that really caught my attention. He said, we are not forking out any money. This will be funded at no cost to us by the Saudis. And what you just said before, Garry, you said that this guy's coming in with, I don't even know if you can call it a business case, it's more of a hobby, unlimited funds that he's burning, right? Now, these guys have turned around and said, if somebody's going to give us 10 million minimum a year and put in milestones that they know that they can achieve, they're smart businessmen, they run a $21 billion enterprise, right? And then Dana White said something as well this morning. He said, I was looking for a solution for boxing and I couldn't find one until Turkey came along. I wonder why. Because they weren't prepared to spend the money that is required to fix the sport. And then this guy comes along and says to him, open checkbook. Do what you got to do. As long as I get more Instagram fans, a bigger Twitter following. I meet Shaquille O'Neal straight after the announcements. I'm all over US media. Ego boost, it's on. Sorry, Rick, but this has been in me for a long time. I really wanted to express my feelings about what these guys are doing.
I think it's well said.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So this is what you're saying, Garry, is not wrong. There is no insight here. Like, where's the exit strategy? How is Dana White going to all of a sudden fix a world where every single fighter has an attorney behind them, has a legal team behind him, is caught up in this contract or that contract or that contract. In terms of the distribution and marketing and profile building, 100% they can do that. That's their power. They got the WWE, the UFC, the digital ecosystem that they've built around these organizations. But coming back to your point, is this really going to last? And why have they put a 5-year lifetime on this? Based on what you think.
So all kidding aside, because I did go on quite a rant back there, and there was a little bit of sarcasm involved, so I'll get serious now.
Yeah.
You know, he's using TKO and just funding them, because TKO did make it clear, we might as well. The guy's going to give us a ton of money. We might as well form a league. We're a service provider now. It's his league. He's just giving us a ton of money to administrate it. So yeah, why not? Right? They'll take his money and they'll try. But why? Why is he using them? And you have to read between the lines. There's 2 entities he hasn't conquered yet. One of them relatively small and burgeoning. The other one big and at times looking like it may not make it. That's PBC and ProBox TV. Top Rank, unfortunately, with this ESPN development, is in a tough spot. And Golden Boy has already gone to the other side, much because they had to, because of the DAZN contract. He's had trouble conquering the US. He took over the UK like it was nothing, right? And, you know, that's fine, right? Eddie and Frank, that's their decision, their choice. They want to sell out and put the sports in his hands. That's fine. I personally don't buy it. I think they're just taking his money. I think he's going to blow his brains out. So that's their strategy. It's obvious. But the Americans didn't want to give in that much. This is a pastime of the U.S., and we think that the sport should be here. And while the current placeholders that have been running the sport haven't done the best job at times, still a pretty popular sport.
That's being diplomatic.
Well, there's still 20,000 people in that arena the other night, right? And there's still millions of fans that are watching, and it could be better, but it's still what it is. Them giving the sport over to this guy who's a little disrespectful, he's a little degrading to people. He doesn't do business in a respectful way. He just wants to tell you what to do. He wants to subjugate everybody. That's everybody's to each their own. If you need money that bad, bend your fucking knee. But otherwise, it's not like anybody really wanted him to do this unless you were really struggling in the sport, you needed a lot of money, and you wanted to sell out for the money. I'm not doing it for that, so I'm not interested in his proposal. But PBC's trying, and he's really taking his money, big chip stacking everybody, and trying to create a monopoly. When he realized that he couldn't conquer the U.S., that there's a little bit of resistance over here, he went to Dana White and he said, "Hey, can I hire you to go at them?" That's really what he's done. Now, he's not really going at PBC and Top Rank. Let's be clear. He's already gone after them, and he's going to take their fighters and keep taking their fighters and assaulting them with bags of money till he's created an absolute monopoly at the championship level. There has been a problem, and he's acknowledged it. There's this little company, ProBox TV, that seems to be doing things intelligently, and they're growing. And if I chop off all the heads of the major promoters with all the star fighters, but I forget about that little weed that's growing, well, what am I going to do about him now? He keeps snatching talent to prospect and mid-levels. And he saw what I was doing, and he said, wait a second, I got to go after the turtle there. Even though the turtle doesn't seem to be here bothering us, I see him coming slowly but surely, so I'm going to crack on him. Well, what's TKO's marketplace? What's their league going after? This league is what? Prospects?
Apparently.
It's a prospect league?
Contenders.
Oh, and he gave a pile of money to Suleiman. Coincidence. So in 2 cases, he gave a pile of money for one guy to do a tournament for a prospects level, and he gave another guy a pile of money to create a league that isn't at the championship level. Who are they interfering with, Rick? Who might they be getting in the way of? So I can see what he's doing. He can see what I'm doing. I can see what he's doing. And I have employees of his who've shared with me that he's out to destroy ProBox TV boxing scene and Garry Jonas, which at first I was like, really? Me? Why me? I'm nobody. But apparently, you know, he thinks in the zone we compete with, and we're little mini me. I have no delusions of grandeur who we are, but I guess they think they got to cut us off at the knees before we grow up. And that's what this TKO and WBC funding of these tournaments is all about. So he wants a monopoly. He's going to big chip stack everybody into it. There's probably, Rick, an antitrust case somewhere in here, to be honest with you. And TKO is probably going to walk themselves right into one, right? Because you can't sue the Saudis over there. They don't care. They don't play by the rules. But now that TKO's walked into, there's a deep pocket, right? So let's watch this unfold. I don't think it's going to be as easy as they think. I don't think the boxing fans are going to receive Dana White well and his brand of combat sports and the way he does it. I don't think he's got the talent pool, right? We have 50, 60 fighters. It was hard to find the next 50, 60 fighters available that weren't on those platforms. We did a pretty good job of it. We've got a very good stable of young fighters. So bring it on. Let's go. May we live in interesting times, and Turkey has made it really interesting.
Garry, you've been a great guest for 1 hour. And speaking for Ahmad, even though I'm not really speaking for Ahmad, we'd like to have you back very shortly, like in a couple of weeks. How's that?
As you can see, I have a lot to say, and I apologize.
Well, right, but also we want you on as soon as that decision comes down with the New York State Athletic Commission. We want you on the same night.
And I'll try not to dominate the conversation as much as I did.
Oh no, I enjoyed it. Really, it almost gave me a night off.
we like to give our guests.
It was my pleasure to hang out with you guys and talk about this. And there's going to be plenty more to talk about. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Garry Jonas, founder of ProBox TV. Thank you very much for joining us, Garry. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. We'll catch you on the next episode.